Hello, welcome back. In this video, we are going to learn about principles of network applications. So let's look at the agenda of discussion. I will introduce you to the application layer. Please recall that application layer is the highest layer of the OSI model and the TCP/IP model. Then I will touch upon the network applications architectures. After that, processes communicating. Then application layer protocols. Different application layer protocols will be discussed here. After that, transport services that are available to applications will be the point of discussion. Last but not the least, transport services provided by the internet would be discussed. So let me introduce you to the application layer. If you recall that OSI model or TCP/IP protocol suite consists of the application layer as the highest layer. In TCP/IP, the application layer, presentation layer, and the session layer of the OSI model are combined together to form the application layer. And in OSI model, we have separately application layer, presentation layer, and the session layer. Now, the application layer is the layer which directly interacts with the user. So, all the user applications are residing at this application layer. Now, there are certain points to be discussed in connection with the application layer. First of all, the interface. What is the meaning of interface? Interface means the link to computer point of connection. Basically, the physical layer gets connected to the channel or the link. So the interface is the point of connection from the physical layer to the channel or the link. But when we talk about application layer, this interface basically means the point of connection between the application layer and the transport layer of the TCP/IP protocol suite. Next comes application versus application layer. Now, the application is basically the user programs which are designed by the user, and then it is used to fetch documents in the internet. And application layer is the layer of the OSI model or the TCP/IP model which is at the top. So there is a basic difference between the application and the application layer. We can say that application is a part of application layer. After that comes the two important terms in connection with application layer, and these terms are the clients and the servers. In order to fetch the web documents, the clients make a request to the server and the server responds. Basically, the client uses the browser software to make a request for any web documents. And there is a web server which has all the web documents in various sites which are linked together. So whenever a request is given to the server responds by placing the web document from its websites. Now, this client is a program or the host, the program running on the host, which is either in on state or off state. But the server is always in the on state because it has to be in the on state because it receives requests from various clients. But the client, on the other hand, is on whenever it wants to request a document. At other times, it is in the off state. Next comes programming of applications. It is the duty of the programmer of the applications to do software programming. Software programming of user applications. They can either use Java or Python or any other language to design the programming applications. But here it must be remembered that programming of core devices, for example, routers or switches, is not done by the application programmer. Next comes transport layer interaction. As I said, this is the interface between the application layer and the transport layer. The application layer and the transport layer interface is known as the socket. We are going to learn about socket shortly. Let us understand the application layer with respect to this diagram. You can see here there are various hosts like host A, host B, C, D, like that. There are various hosts. These are the standalone machines, and we can even have laptops over here. So the laptops these are the laptops, and this is the access router. These are all the wired routers, and these are the servers. Basically, these hosts are the clients which should make requests to the servers to fetch the web documents. Now you can see here at the client side, we have the application layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and the physical layer. For each of the hosts, we can see application, transport, network, data link, and physical. So whenever there is a requirement for a host for a web document, it has to make a transaction between the application layers. So application layer of this host to the application layer of the server, because the host of the client is making a request and the server should respond with a response, and all these interactions or messages happen between the two application layers. Similarly, this host and this server can make request response through the application layers of the server and the client. So what are the different applications of the application layer? We can have electronic mail. Electronic mail is also called the email, and it uses protocols such as SMTP or MIME. SMTP is the simple mail transfer protocol and MIME is the multipurpose internet mail exchange. So we are going to learn about these two protocols in some other videos. We can have the application of web, which is also called the www or the World Wide Web, which is basically a repository of information. Then we can also have instant messaging. After that, logging into a remote computer by using the telnet. After that, P2P file sharing. P2P stands for peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer file sharing does not require any server. then we can have file transfer between two accounts on two different computers. After that, multi-user networked games can also be used. So this is also, the gaming is also a part of application layer. There are various gaming consoles and gaming programming languages that can be used by the programmer to design the network games. After that, we can stream stored video clips by using either YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Then internet telephony is another application of application layer. After that, real-time video conferencing can also be done at the application layer. So these are the various applications of the application layer. Let us now understand network applications architectures. Now, there are various types of network applications architecture. It defines how the application is organized over various end systems. Now, there are three different types of architecture. One is known as the client server type. The second one is known as the P2P or peer-to-peer type of architecture. And the third one is a hybrid type of architecture where both the client server and P2P architectures are used in combination. Now let us look at this diagram again. We have the clients here. So these are all the clients. This is also a client. This is the laptop. This is the access router. These are all the wired routers. And these are the various servers. For client server application, the client makes a request to the server and the server gives the response to the client. Similarly, from this side, from this server to this client. But for peer-to-peer connection, there is no requirement of the server, so the client can directly make a request to another client. So this is P2P connection. And in response, the other client to which the request has been made, it can send the response to the client directly. Now here also, from this client to this client, there can be a request and response. In this case, the client to whom the request has been made will have the repository of web documents, and in this way the scalability can be increased to an enormous extent instead of the client server applications. Now we look at the processes which are communicating with each other. Now what is a process? A process means a program in execution. When we talk about the applications that are communicating with each other, we mean that the processes are communicating with each other and not the program. When the programs are running with they are communicating with each other. Now we can have a client server process. Like the client will have a browser by which it will make a request to the server, where a web server is running all the time to service the request from the client. Now this is a very important term. This is called the socket, which is basically the door through which the request is made at one endpoint of a connection, and at the other door, that is a response is sent at the other endpoint. Now the request is made by the client and response is sent to the client by the server. So we are going to learn in details about the socket. So basically this is an interface between the application layer and the transport layer. Next we have the addressing processes. Now how do the processes communicate with each other? Communication between processes is done via Uniform Resource Locator, or we call it URL. This URL is the unique identifier of a web document and the host computer. The host computer is here the server where the web document resides. So how the URL is given? URL is given by the IP address as well as a port number. So in short, the name or the address of the host must be given, and this identifier that should specify the receiving process in the destination host. Let's consider the diagram for processes communicating. We have the host or the server here. This is 1 and this is 2. And we have the processes running in the 2 computers. These processes are basically controlled by the application developer. From the process, there should be a socket or the door, as we have discussed in both the computers, which connects to the TCP layer or the transport layer. So this is basically controlled by the operating system. We have the TCP buffers or the variables in both the computers. So communication between different processes of 2 computers is done at the TCP layer or the transport layer over the internet. Let us now look at the application layer protocols. Application layer protocols defines the types of messages that are to be exchanged. Like we have 2 types of messages. One is a request message that is sent by the client, and the other one is a response message that is sent by the server. Both of them are known as the host. Next, it has to define the syntax. What is the meaning of syntax? Syntax means the structure and format of the fields and their description. Basically, it also means the signal levels and the data format. Either it is in ASCII or binary or hexadecimal. Next, it also looks into the semantics, like coordination of the bits in the different fields, how the bits are interpreted in the different fields. So control information is there in the semantics part of the application layer protocols. And last but not the least, the protocol means the rules and regulations as to when and how a process should send and receive the messages between 2 computers. These are all available in the public domain known as RFC, or it is the request for comments. The standards of these protocols are defined in various RFCs which are available publicly. Now let us turn our attention to transport services that are available to applications. As we have already discussed, the socket is the interface between the application layer and the transport layer. It is basically a door through which messages are transferred between the client and the server, or from one host to another host through the internet. So it is the one endpoint of a connection. Without the help of socket, there cannot be any message transfer between the client and the source. Now, another very important service available to applications is reliable data transfer. Whenever data is transferred between the client and the server, the reliability is of utmost importance. There are certain applications like file sharing or financial transaction. Mainly this is for banking purpose or military communication, where data loss is not at all tolerable. So in these cases, reliability of data transfer is very important. But there are certain applications like audio and video, both real time and stored. So here, certain data loss is tolerable, because if there is some data loss in a streamed audio video through either YouTube or Facebook, then certain glitches would appear, but that is tolerable. So there are certain applications where data transfer, reliability of data transfer is very important, and certain applications are there where data loss is tolerable. Next comes the bandwidth. There are certain applications which are bandwidth sensitive. Like when you are streaming audio and video via YouTube. So this requires higher data rate and bandwidth. But there are certain applications which are elastic in nature. Elastic in nature means these applications can use low or high bandwidth which are available. Like they are very flexible and they can adjust to the available bandwidth. Next important service is timing. So data transfer timing is also very important. Like when we are talking about real-time video conferencing, video or audio conference, then timing is very important and delay is not acceptable. But there are certain other applications where lower delay is tolerable. These are the requirements of selected new applications of the application layer and the transport layer. We can have file transfer applications where there is no data loss, which are tolerable, bandwidth is elastic in nature, and it is also not time sensitive. For email, so data loss is not acceptable and it is elastic in nature, it is not time sensitive. Web documents also, data loss is not acceptable and it is elastic in nature for bandwidth, having few kbps, and it is also not time sensitive. For real-time audio video, data loss is slightly acceptable, and for audio we can have the bandwidth of few kbps to 1 mbps. For video we can have bandwidth of 10 kbps to 5 mbps, and this is very much time sensitive of the order of hundreds of milliseconds. Next we have stored audio video. Here also data loss is acceptable, and for audio we can have few kbps to 1 mbps. For video we can have 10 kbps to 5 mbps, and it is also time sensitive, having few seconds. Then we can have interactive games data loss is less tolerant and bandwidth is few kbps to 10 kbps, and it is also time sensitive, hundreds of milliseconds. Last but not the least, the example is instant messaging, where data loss is not tolerable. Bandwidth is elastic in nature and it is at times time sensitive, and at times it may not be time sensitive. Now let us turn our attention to transport services provided by the internet. There are two different protocols used at the transport layer. One is called the UDP and the other one is called the TCP. TCP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, and UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. Now, let us look at the TCP services. TCP services, always remember that it is a connection-oriented service. Like, the meaning is that a setup path is required before connection is made, and at the same time, after the connection is terminated, the setup path is removed. And TCP provides reliable transport services, and it has congestion control techniques. For UDP, like the user datagram protocol, it is a connectionless protocol, which means no path setup and termination are required. There is no handshaking possible in UDP. So it is not a reliable data transfer service, and there is no congestion control technique also. But as compared to TCP, UDP is very simple to use. So whenever there is a data which is of smaller size, we can go for UDP. And if the data is of larger size, we can go for TCP. These are some of the common internet applications. Like the email, it uses the application layer protocol SMTP, and underlying transport protocol is TCP. For remote terminal access, the application layer protocol is Telnet, as discussed earlier, and the transport layer protocol is TCP. For the web, we use HTTP and TCP. For file transfer, we use the protocol FTP, and the transport layer protocol is TCP. For remote file server, we can use Network File System or NFS. It was devised by Sun Microsystem, and it uses UDP or TCP. Streaming multimedia is often having a proprietary license, and it uses either UDP or TCP. Then last but not the least, we can have internet telephony, which is also proprietary, and it typically uses the user datagram protocol. To summarize, in this video, we have learned about the overview of application layer. We have learned about the different types of network applications architecture, like client-server architecture, then P2P architecture or the hybrid architecture. We have learned how the processes communicate with each other by using the socket. Then different application layer protocols we have discussed, like SMTP, FTP, Telnet, and their applications. We have understood what are the transport services that are available to applications and transport services which are provided by the internet, like TCP and UDP, and their various characteristics. Thank you.